Lisa Grant stood in the empty training room, her fingers wrapped around the handle of her baton. The weapon was simple, just composite materials and basic electronics. No plasma edge, no energy field, nothing that could kill, just a tool for control and defense. She ran through her warm-up routine, her body moving through practiced motions that had become second nature over the years. The door behind her opened with a soft hiss. Captain Ryan Hughes walked in, his expression serious. Lisa stopped mid-movement and turned to face him. "They've changed the demonstration," Ryan said without preamble. "The Corvash want a live exercise." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "Live exercise? Against who?" "Against you." She let that sink in for a moment. The Corvash were known throughout the galaxy as the best soldiers money could buy. Their elite strike teams had never lost an engagement, not once in 300 years of recorded history, and now they wanted to test themselves against a human security officer. "Let me guess," Lisa said, a small smile playing at her lips. "They think it'll be easy." Ryan nodded. "Commander Vrektar has been very vocal about it. He's made it clear he thinks our security protocols are weak. He's called our non-lethal approach naive and dangerous." Lisa had heard it all before. When humanity first made contact with the galactic community, every species had their opinions. Most thought humans were too soft, too emotional, too willing to show mercy. The fact that human security officers carried batons instead of plasma rifles was seen as proof of their inadequacy. "What are the parameters?" she asked. "Hostage rescue scenario in Cargo Bay 3. You play the hostile. 5 members of Rektar's elite team will extract the hostages. Full combat equipment on their side. And on mine? Your baton. Standard security armor. Nothing else." Lisa considered this. 5 trained Corvash warriors in powered armor with plasma weapons against 1 human with a stick. On paper, it looked like a massacre waiting to happen, but paper didn't account for everything. "When?" she asked. 2 hours, Ambassador Thelcor wants to observe. So do representatives from 7 other species. This is about more than just a training exercise, Lisa. This is about whether the Council takes humanity seriously. Lisa understood. Humanity was still on probation with the Galactic Council. Every action was watched, judged, measured against the standards of species who had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. One wrong move could set back Earth's integration by decades. "I'll be ready," she said. Ryan studied her for a long moment. "You don't seem worried." "Should I be?" 5 elite soldiers, Lisa. The best in the galaxy. She smiled. The best in the galaxy at fighting other aliens. They've never fought a human before. Ryan wanted to ask what she meant by that, but something in her expression stopped him. He'd seen Lisa's service record. Before joining the Herald of Unity, she'd been an instructor at the Tactical Training Center in Denver. Her students had gone on to serve in the most dangerous security positions across Earth's colonies. She knew what she was doing. "Good luck," he said finally, then left her alone to prepare. Lisa returned to her warm-up routine, but her mind was already working through the problem. The Corvash were formidable opponents, but they had weaknesses. Every species did. She'd spent the last 2 years studying alien combat doctrine, learning how different species thought about violence and conflict. The Corvash favored overwhelming force and synchronized strikes. Their military academies taught that victory went to whoever could bring the most firepower to bear in the shortest time. It was a philosophy that had served them well against other species. But humans thought about combat differently. An hour later, Lisa stood in the briefing room with the Corvash strike team. Commander Vrektar was tall, easily 7 feet, with 4 arms and skin that looked like dark blue leather. His eyes were cold and calculating as they swept over her. "This is the human?" he asked Captain Ryan, his translator rendering his words in perfect English. "Security Officer Lisa Grant," Ryan confirmed. Vrektar made a sound that might have been a laugh. "She is small, and armed with only a stick." "A baton," Lisa corrected calmly. "It's a precision tool. We use precision weapons," Vrektar said, gesturing to the plasma rifle mag-locked to his armor. "What you carry is a toy." Lisa didn't rise to the bait. She'd dealt with plenty of aggressive personalities in her career. Vrektar wasn't trying to intimidate her for fun. He was testing her. Looking for weakness, Ambassador Thelkor entered the room, his three eyes taking in the gathered personnel. He was a dignified being. His species having served on the Galactic Council for over a millennium, behind him came representatives from the other observer species, all dressed in their formal diplomatic attire. "We are here to observe a demonstration of security protocols," Thelkor announced. "This exercise will be conducted with full safety measures in place. Commander Vrektar, please review the parameters." Vrektar straightened, clearly pleased to be the center of attention. A simple hostage rescue. 5 hostages, holographic, placed in Cargo Bay 3. Officer Grant will defend the position. My team will extract the hostages. Standard engagement rules apply. "And what are standard engagement rules for the Korvash?" asked one of the alien observers, a being that looked like a floating jellyfish encased in a containment suit. "Neutralize all threats using appropriate force," Vrektar said. "We will not kill the human, of course. Our weapons will be set to stun mode. But we will treat this as a real combat scenario." Lisa noticed he didn't say anything about avoiding injury. Stun mode on a plasma weapon could still break bones and cause serious burns. The Korvash expected this to hurt. "Officer Grant," Thelkor said, turning to her. "Do you have any questions about the exercise?" "Just one," Lisa said. "Will the hostages have defined positions, or am I free to place them?" "You may position them as you see fit," Thelkor confirmed. "You will have 5 minutes to prepare the scenario before the strike team enters." Lisa nodded. That was good. Controlling the environment was half the battle. "If there are no further questions," Thelkor continued, "we will proceed to the observation deck. Officer Grant, please take your position in Cargo Bay 3. Commander Vrektar, your team will enter from the primary access point when the exercise begins." The group began to file out. As Lisa moved to leave, Vrektar stepped into her path. He looked down at her, his forearms crossed over his chest. "I want you to understand something, human," he said quietly. "This exercise will demonstrate why your species needs proper warriors. When my team extracts those hostages in under 1 minute, the Council will see that your security approach is inadequate. We are doing you a favor by exposing this weakness now." Lisa met his gaze without flinching. "Commander, I appreciate your concern. But you might want to consider something." "What is that?" "You're about to learn why humans survived on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. We didn't get to the top of our food chain because we were the biggest or the strongest. We got there because we were the best at solving problems. And right now, you're my problem." She stepped around him and walked toward Cargo Bay 3, leaving Vrektar staring after her. One of his team members approached him. Lisa stepped into Cargo Bay 3 and let the door seal behind her. The space was large, designed to hold shipping containers stacked 3 high. Metal walkways crossed overhead, and shadows filled the gaps between the massive storage units. It was perfect for what she needed to do. The holographic hostages materialized in the center of the bay. 5 figures frozen in place until she activated them. Lisa studied the space with the careful attention of someone who had learned to read environments like other people read books. Every shadow was a potential hiding place. Every walkway was a route of movement. Every container was both cover and obstacle. She placed the hostages in a cluster near the back wall, then activated them. The holograms began moving in randomized patterns, simulating frightened civilians. Good. That would complicate the strike team's approach. They couldn't just blast their way in without risking the targets they were supposed to save. Lisa checked her baton. The power cell was fully charged. The weapon hummed slightly when she activated it. The electric field designed to disrupt electronics and temporarily overload nervous systems on contact. Against armor, it would be less effective, but armor had weak points. Every system did. She moved to a position on the second-level walkway, then changed her mind. Too obvious. The Korvash would scan for her position before entering. They would expect her to take the high ground, so she needed to be somewhere else. The chronometer on the wall showed 3 minutes until the exercise began. Lisa used the time to move between containers, memorizing the paths, feeling how her boots gripped the floor, noting which surfaces would echo and which would absorb sound. This was the advantage no one talked about when they discussed human capabilities. It wasn't just about being fast or strong. It was about preparation. About understanding that every fight was won or lost before the first blow landed. On the observation deck, Captain Ryan stood next to Ambassador Thelkor. Through the reinforced windows, they could see Lisa moving through the cargo bay. The other alien observers were talking among themselves, discussing the upcoming exercise in languages the ship's computers struggled to translate. "Your officer is thorough," Thelkor observed. "She examines the space carefully." "Lisa doesn't leave things to chance," Ryan said. One of the observers, a being with crystalline skin that refracted light in rainbow patterns, spoke up. "Preparation is meaningless against superior force. The Corvash will end this quickly." Ryan didn't respond. He'd learned that arguing with the other species before they saw humans in action was pointless. They would believe what they wanted to believe until reality proved otherwise. In the staging area near Cargo Bay 3, Vrektar and his team performed final equipment checks. Each warrior wore full tactical armor, powered systems that increased strength, and provided protection against most weapons. Their helmets had advanced sensor packages that could detect heat signatures, electromagnetic fields, and movement through walls. "Target is moving on level 2, one of the team members reported, studying his scanner. "Single heat signature." "Only one?" another asked. "No backup?" "Humans rely on their own abilities," Vrektar said. "They do not understand proper tactical support. This weakness will be their downfall." The team leader checked his weapon. "Engagement protocols? Standard breach and clear," Vrektar ordered. "We enter simultaneously from 3 points. Team Alpha takes primary access. Team Beta takes the west maintenance entrance. I will enter from above with Team Charlie. We surround the target position and extract the hostages. Estimated time: 45 seconds. The team nodded. They had performed this exact scenario hundreds of times against various opponents. The pattern was always the same. Overwhelming force from multiple directions left no room for the enemy to respond. It was brutal, efficient, and it had never failed them. The chronometer hit 0. A tone sounded through the ship's communication system. "Exercise has begun," announced the automated voice. Vrektar led his team forward. They moved with the confidence of warriors who had never known defeat. Their armor made them strong and fast. Their weapons could punch through reinforced walls. Their training was the product of a military tradition that stretched back generations. They breached the cargo bay doors simultaneously, exactly as planned. Team Alpha poured through the main entrance, weapons raised and scanning for targets. Team Beta flanked from the west side. Vrektar dropped from an overhead access hatch with Team Charlie, hitting the floor in a crouch that should have given him perfect vision of the entire bay. But Lisa wasn't where their scanners said she should be. The first hint that something was wrong came when Team Alpha's point soldier, a veteran of 17 combat missions, glanced at his helmet display and saw his target marker flickering. The heat signature that had been on level 2 was now showing on level 1, but visual confirmation showed nothing. "Contact position uncertain," he reported. "Scanners showing multiple possible locations." Vrektar frowned inside his helmet. Multiple locations? That was impossible. One human couldn't project multiple heat signatures unless they had technology far beyond what the Galactic Council assessments indicated. What he didn't understand was that Lisa wasn't using technology to fool them. She was using the environment. The cargo containers were filled with materials that held heat differently. Some were refrigerated, others contained warm goods. By moving quickly through the bay during her preparation time, she had left residual heat traces on multiple surfaces. The Corvash scanners, sophisticated as they were, couldn't distinguish between a living person and the ghost of where she had been moments before. Lisa watched the strike team from her actual position, tucked into a shadow between 2 containers on the ground level. She had draped a thermal blanket over herself, the kind used for emergency situations. It masked her heat signature almost completely. The Corvash were looking for her in all the wrong places, because they trusted their technology more than their eyes. She studied their formation. 3 groups, 5 total members. They were spreading out according to a pattern she recognized from her studies. Standard military doctrine for the Corvash. Establish a perimeter. Close in on the target. Eliminate threats. It was effective against opponents who fought back directly, but Lisa had no intention of fighting them head-on. The strike team moved deeper into the cargo bay. Their weapons swept the shadows, ready to fire the moment they acquired a target. On the observation deck, the alien representatives leaned forward, waiting for the inevitable conclusion. The human has made a tactical error, the crystalline observer said. She has no clear line of sight to the hostages. She cannot protect them from this position. Maybe protecting them isn't her primary objective, Ryan said quietly. Then what is? Surviving. In the cargo bay, Team Alpha reached the hostages. The holographic civilians cowered convincingly, their programmed behavior mimicking real fear. The lead soldier reached out to tag the first hostage, which would register as a successful extraction. That was when Lisa moved. She came out of the shadows like water flowing downhill, smooth and unstoppable. Her baton was already in motion. No wasted movement. No telegraph of her intentions. The first soldier never saw her coming. She struck at the junction point, where his armor's power cable connected to the primary distribution node. It was a weak point, necessary for maintenance access, and her baton's electric charge went straight into his suit's systems. Sparks flew. The soldier's armor locked up mid-stride. All power diverted to safety protocols. He fell forward, unable to move. His weapons useless. The entire attack took less than 2 seconds. The other members of Team Alpha spun toward her, but Lisa was already gone. She rolled behind a container as plasma fire scorched the air where she had been standing. The shots were set to stun, but they still carried enough energy to hurt. If any of them connected, this fight would be over. But connecting meant hitting a target, and Lisa had spent years learning how to make herself very hard to hit. Target engaged. Level 1, Section 7. One of the soldiers shouted into his comm system. Vrektar processed this information quickly. The human had been hiding her position. The Corvash soldiers moved into their box formation, weapons ready, scanners actively sweeping for any sign of movement. They were converging on Section 7 from 4 directions. A tactical arrangement that should have left no room for escape. On the observation deck, several of the alien representatives nodded approvingly at the professional response. Lisa pressed herself against the cold metal of a shipping container, listening. The Corvash armor made noise, a soft whine of servos and power systems that most species would never notice. But humans had evolved as hunters, and hunters learned to hear what others missed. She could track each soldier by sound alone, building a mental map of their positions. 3 soldiers were approaching from her left, moving in a staggered line. 2 more from her right, slightly faster, trying to close the trap. They thought they had her cornered. That was good. Cornered prey was predictable, but Lisa had never thought of herself as prey. She moved before they reached her position, going up instead of forward. Her hands found the rungs of a maintenance ladder welded to the container's side. She climbed quickly, her enhanced grip strength, a product of Earth's heavier gravity, making the ascent effortless. By the time the soldiers reached Section 7, she was already above them. Target not found, one of the Corvash reported. Section 7 is clear. Vrektar's voice crackled through their communications. Impossible. Expand search pattern. She cannot have gone far. But Lisa had gone far enough. She was perched on top of a container 2 sections over, watching the strike team regroup below. From this angle, she could see the weakness in their formation. They were all looking down, expecting threats at ground level. None of them thought to check above. It was a blind spot born of fighting species who couldn't climb as well as humans. Most aliens in the galaxy came from worlds where vertical movement was difficult or unnecessary. Their military tactics reflected this, but humans came from trees and cliffs, from mountains and buildings. Going up was as natural as going forward. Lisa dropped onto the nearest soldier without warning. She landed on his shoulders, her weight and momentum driving him down. Before he could react, her baton was pressed against the exposed power coupling at the back of his neck. The electric discharge fried his helmet's control systems. His display went dark, his communications cut out, and his armor's assisted movement locked up. The soldier crashed to the floor, and Lisa was already rolling away. Plasma fire tracked her movement, the soldiers finally looking up, but their shots came a fraction of a second too slow. She used their own teammate as cover, putting the disabled soldier's bulky armor between herself and the incoming fire. "She is using vertical movement," one of the Corvash shouted. "Adjust tactics." But adjusting tactics required time to think. And Lisa wasn't giving them time. She was already moving again, using the containers like a three-dimensional maze. She climbed, dropped, rolled, and ran in patterns that seemed random but were carefully calculated to keep her between the soldiers and their lines of fire. On the observation deck, the alien representatives had stopped talking. They were watching in silence as a human armed with a simple baton systematically dismantled an elite strike team. Ambassador Thelkor's 3 eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of surprise in his species. "How is she doing this?" the crystalline observer asked. "The Corvash have superior equipment, superior numbers. They should have ended this by now." Captain Ryan allowed himself a small smile. "She's faster than they are. Impossible. Corvash reaction time is 0.7 seconds. Human average is 0.25 seconds. By galactic standards, humans are not particularly fast." "You're measuring the wrong thing," Ryan said. "Yes, our average reaction time is 0.25 seconds. But Lisa isn't average. She's trained. Her reaction time is closer to 0.15 seconds. And more importantly, she's not reacting. She's anticipating. She's anticipating." The crystalline being's internal light flickered with confusion. "I do not understand the difference. Reacting means responding to something after it happens. Anticipating means moving before it happens. Lisa isn't waiting to see what they do. She's reading their body language, their positioning, their patterns. She knows what they're going to do before they do it." In the cargo bay, Vrektar was beginning to understand this himself. He watched Lisa move through his tactical display, and something about her movement bothered him. She wasn't just fast, she was always in the right place at the right time. It was as if she could see the future. What he didn't realize was that Lisa was reading them like children. The Corvash trained for precision and coordination. Every movement was practiced. Every formation textbook perfect, and that made them predictable. When a soldier raised his weapon, his body language telegraphed exactly where he would aim. When a team moved to flank, their spacing showed exactly where they would emerge. Lisa had spent years teaching other humans how to read these signs. It was the foundation of her training philosophy. Technology could be jammed, weapons could malfunction, but the ability to understand an opponent's intentions through observation, that was a skill that never failed. She came down on the third soldier from above, using a overhead crosswalk as a launching point. Her baton struck the sensor cluster on his helmet's faceplate. The soldier reacted instantly, bringing his weapon up. But blind firing meant he was as likely to hit his teammates as the target. He hesitated for a fraction of a second, and that hesitation was fatal to his participation in the exercise. Lisa's second strike hit his armor's hip joint, where the power conduit ran close to the surface. Sparks flew. The soldier's lower body locked up, and he toppled like a tree. 3 down, 2 left, plus Vrektar. The commander was beginning to realize that this was not going as planned. Half his team was disabled, and the human had barely been touched. He signaled to his 2 remaining soldiers to fall back to a defensive position around the hostages. If they couldn't catch her in the open, they would make her come to them. Lisa saw the shift in tactics immediately. The remaining Corvash were setting up a protected zone around the holographic civilians. It was a smart move, forcing her to either abandon the objective or enter a kill zone where their superior firepower would matter. But there was a flaw in their reasoning. They were thinking about the exercise as a hostage rescue, playing the role assigned to them. Lisa was thinking about it as a combat scenario, where the objective wasn't to follow the script, but to win. She circled the defensive position, staying just out of range of their weapons. The 2 soldiers tracked her movement, their guns trained on her position. But they didn't fire. They were waiting for her to commit to an approach, waiting for her to make a mistake. Lisa didn't make mistakes. At least, not unintentional ones. She threw her baton. It spun through the air, end over end, directly at one of the soldiers. The soldier's automatic reflexes kicked in. He fired at the incoming object, his plasma shot vaporizing the weapon in midair. For exactly 1 second, both soldiers were focused on the destroyed baton. For 1 second, they believed she had made a desperate, stupid move. That second was all Lisa needed. She was already moving before the baton left her hand, sprinting at an angle that took her out of their direct line of sight. She grabbed a piece of debris from earlier, a section of melted container created by their own weapons fire. It was hot enough to register on their thermal sensors. She threw it high and to the left. Both soldiers tracked the heat signature, their training taking over, and Lisa came in from the right. Low and fast. With no heat signature, and no weapon, except her own hands. She hit the first soldier's knee joint with a palm strike that would have broken human bone. The Corvash physiology was more resilient, but the armor's joint mechanism wasn't designed for lateral impacts. Something inside the knee assembly snapped. The soldier's leg gave out. As he fell, Lisa was already on him, using his own body as a springboard to reach the second soldier. Her hands found the release mechanism for his helmet. It was a safety feature, designed for emergency removal, and every armor had one. The helmet popped free, and suddenly the soldier was exposed. His protected environment gone. The air in the cargo bay was safe to breathe. But the sudden loss of his tactical display, his communications, and his armor's assisted targeting left him effectively blind and deaf. He spun around, trying to reacquire the target manually, but Lisa had already dropped behind him. She jumped up, wrapped her arm around his neck in a control hold, and used her weight to pull him off balance. The Corvash were strong, much stronger than humans pound for pound, but strength meant nothing if you couldn't get your feet under you. The soldier crashed to the floor, and Lisa maintained the hold until his armor's safety protocols detected potential injury and shut down his weapon systems. 4 down. Vrektar stood alone now, his entire elite team disabled by one human with a baton she no longer even carried. He looked at Lisa across the cargo bay floor. She was breathing harder now, the exertion finally showing, but her eyes were clear and focused. "You fight without honor," Vrektar said, his translator making his words sound cold and precise. "You use tricks and deception." Vrektar moved toward Lisa with measured steps. Without his weapon, he was still dangerous. The powered armor increased his strength significantly, and his forearms gave him options that most opponents couldn't match. He had studied Lisa's tactics during the brief engagement, noting her preference for mobility and precision strikes. Lisa circled left, keeping distance between them. She no longer had her baton, but that didn't concern her as much as it should have. Tools were useful, but they were just tools. Her real weapons were her mind and her body. The commander lunged forward with surprising speed for someone his size. 2 of his arms reached for Lisa, while the other 2 protected his vulnerable points. It was a smart approach, limiting her targeting options, but it also committed him to a specific attack pattern. Lisa didn't try to dodge away. Instead, she moved forward and to the side, inside his reach. It was counterintuitive, moving toward danger instead of away from it, but close range negated his strength advantage. He couldn't generate full power if she was too close. She struck at his elbow joint with her forearm, a hard block that redirected his grab. Her other hand went for the control panel on his chest plate, fingers searching for the emergency release. Vrektar twisted away before she could find it, one of his free arms coming around to swat her aside. The blow caught Lisa on the shoulder and sent her rolling across the floor. Pain flared up her arm, but nothing felt broken. She came up in a crouch, reassessing. Vrektar was better than his soldiers. Much better. He didn't telegraph his movements as clearly, and he protected his armor's weak points instinctively. On the observation deck, the alien representatives watched in tense silence. What had started as a demonstration of Corvash superiority had turned into something else entirely. A human was fighting one of the galaxy's most respected warriors, and the outcome was no longer certain. "The human is tiring," observed the crystalline being. "She has been in constant motion for several minutes. Her species has limited endurance compared to Corvash physiology." Captain Ryan shook his head. "You've got that backwards. Humans are endurance specialists. We evolved to chase prey for hours across open terrain. Lisa's just getting warmed up." As if to prove his point, Lisa attacked again. This time she used the environment, vaulting over a low container, to come at Vrektar from an unexpected angle. She landed on his back, her legs wrapping around his midsection, while her hands went for his helmet seals. Vrektar spun violently, trying to throw her off. His forearms reached back, trying to grab her, but Lisa kept moving, shifting her position to stay just out of reach. Her fingers found the seal release, and twisted. Nothing happened. Vrektar had locked his helmet from the inside. The commander reached back with two arms and finally got a grip on Lisa's vest. He pulled her off his back and threw her across the cargo bay. She hit the wall hard enough to knock the air from her lungs. For a moment, she couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Vrektar advanced on her position. "You are skilled, human. More skilled than I anticipated. But skill has limits. You cannot overcome the fundamental differences between our species." Lisa struggled to her feet, her breathing ragged. Her shoulder throbbed where he had struck her, and her back ached from hitting the wall. Vrektar was right about one thing. She couldn't match his strength. She couldn't take many more hits like that. But there was something the commander didn't understand about humans. Something that most species in the galaxy missed. Humans didn't evolve to be the strongest, or the fastest, or the most resilient. They evolved to be the most stubborn, the most unwilling to quit. The species that kept going when every logical reason said they should stop. Lisa moved forward again, ignoring the pain. Vrektar set his stance, ready to counter whatever she tried. But this time, Lisa didn't go for a precision strike or a technical takedown. This time, she did something that no properly trained Corvash warrior would ever expect. She tackled him head-on. Lisa hit Vrektar low, wrapping her arms around his legs and driving forward with everything she had. It was a move that should have failed. He outweighed her by over 200 pounds, and his armor added even more mass. But Lisa wasn't trying to knock him down. She was trying to move him. Vrektar stumbled backward, caught off guard by the direct assault. His foot came down on a piece of debris from the earlier fighting, a chunk of melted metal that rolled under his weight. His balance shifted. Lisa felt it and pushed harder, her legs driving like pistons. The commander fell. The impact wasn't graceful. His armor hit the floor with a crash that echoed through the cargo bay. Lisa was on top of him immediately, her knees pinning one of his arms while her hands searched for vulnerable points. Vrektar used his free arms to push her away, his strength overwhelming. Lisa rolled with the push, came up on her feet, and immediately dove back in. She was relentless, giving him no time to recover, no time to use his advantages. Every time he started to rise, she was there, striking at joints, pulling at seals, disrupting his balance. It was exhausting. Every muscle in Lisa's body screamed for rest. Her lungs burned. Sweat stung her eyes. But she kept moving because that was what humans did. They endured. They persisted. They refused to stop. Vrektar managed to get to his feet, but he was breathing hard now too. The constant movement, the repeated impacts, the stress of fighting an opponent who wouldn't stay down, it was wearing on him. His species was built for short, decisive confrontations. Extended combat drained them quickly. Lisa saw her opening. Vrektar's left forward arm was hanging lower than before, the shoulder joint making a slight grinding noise with each movement. She had damaged it with repeated strikes, and now the armor's servo was failing. The commander was compensating with his other arms, but that left him slightly off balance. She feinted left, then went right. Vrektar tracked the movement but reacted a fraction too slowly. Lisa got inside his guard again, and this time, her hands found what she was looking for, the main power junction for his armor, located just below his chest plate. It was heavily protected, but the fighting had knocked some of the protective covers loose. Lisa's fingers closed around the power cable. She pulled with all her remaining strength, The cable was designed to withstand combat damage, built with redundancy and safety features. But it wasn't designed to withstand a human hand, with a grip strength evolved for climbing trees and clinging to prey. The cable tore free from its housing. Sparks erupted from the junction. Vrektar's armor immediately went into emergency shutdown. All power diverted to life support and safety protocols. His weapon systems died. His enhanced strength vanished. His helmet display went dark. The commander of the Korvash elite strike team stood frozen in his powered armor, which had become nothing more than an expensive prison. He could move, but only with his own natural strength, fighting against servo locks and safety mechanisms designed to prevent injury during system failure. Lisa stepped back, her chest heaving with exhaustion. She looked at Vrektar, at the disabled strike team scattered across the cargo bay, at the holographic hostages still intact and unharmed. The entire engagement had lasted 4 minutes and 37 seconds. The silence in the observation deck was absolute. No one spoke. No one moved. They simply stared at what had just happened. A human security officer, armed with only a non-lethal baton that she had lost midway through the fight, had defeated 5 of the galaxy's most elite warriors. She had done it through speed, through adaptability, through understanding her opponents better than they understood themselves, and most of all, through the simple refusal to accept defeat. Ambassador Thelkor's 3 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of deep thought. "Captain Hughes," he said quietly, "I believe we need to update our assessment of human combat capabilities." Ryan nodded, watching Lisa through the window. She had bent over, hands on her knees, catching her breath. She looked completely exhausted. She also looked completely unbowed. "Yes," Ryan said, "I believe you do." The medical team arrived within minutes of the exercise ending. They helped Vrektar and his soldiers out of their disabled armor, checking for injuries. Beyond some bruises and wounded pride, everyone was intact. Lisa sat on a cargo container while a medic examined her shoulder, which had already started to swell. "You'll need to ice this," the medic said, a young man named Kevin who had joined the Herald of Unity fresh out of training. "That's going to hurt for a few days." "Worth it," Lisa said quietly. Ambassador Thelkor entered the cargo bay with Captain Ryan and several other alien representatives. The crystalline observer's inner light was pulsing in patterns Lisa didn't recognize. The ambassador approached where Vrektar stood, his armor now removed and stacked nearby. "Commander," Thelkor said, "I will need your official report on the exercise." Vrektar stood straight despite his exhaustion. "The report is simple, Ambassador. My team was defeated. Completely. The human demonstrated superior tactical awareness, adaptability, and combat effectiveness, despite being outnumbered and outgunned." One of the alien observers stepped forward, a being with tentacles instead of arms. "But surely the circumstances were unusual? In a real combat scenario, with lethal weapons, the outcome would have been different." Vrektar turned to face the speaker. "Would it? Officer Grant disabled my team's weapons without destroying them. If those weapons had been set to kill, my soldiers would still have been just as helpless. Dead armor is dead armor, regardless of what the weapons were set to do." "She got lucky," another observer insisted. "One human cannot possibly represent the combat capability of an entire species." Captain Ryan spoke up. "Officer Grant is well trained, but she's not exceptional by human standards. We have thousands of security personnel with similar skills. What you saw today wasn't luck. It was the result of training methods developed over centuries of human warfare. Warfare against other humans," the tentacled observer pointed out. "Not against species with superior technology." "Technology doesn't win fights," Lisa said from her position on the container. Everyone turned to look at her. "Technology gives you options, but fights are won by whoever can make better decisions faster. And humans have been making life or death decisions since before we had fire." Thelkor's 3 eyes focused on her. "Explain what you mean, Officer Grant." Lisa slid down from the container, wincing as her shoulder protested. "Every species in the galaxy developed in their own way. Some of you evolved with natural armor. Some of you are stronger than us. Some are faster. But humans evolved as hunters on a world that was actively trying to kill us. We had to be smarter than everything that wanted to eat us. and tougher than everything we wanted to eat. She walked toward the group of observers, her movements still fluid despite her exhaustion. We learned to read body language because we needed to predict what predators would do. We learned endurance because we chased our prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We learned adaptability because our environment changed constantly and we had to keep up or die. Every human carries those survival traits. And these traits translate to combat? Thelkor asked. Combat is just another survival situation, Lisa said. Commander Vrektar and his team are excellent warriors. But they train to fight other species who think like they do, who follow similar tactical doctrines, who use overwhelming force because they can. Vrektar nodded slowly. She is correct. We assumed the human would behave as our previous opponents have behaved. We assumed her limitations based on equipment and numbers. We did not account for strategy that exists outside our doctrine. We call it thinking outside the box, Lisa said. Humans do it naturally because we had to. When you're not the strongest or the fastest, you learn to be creative. The crystalline observer's light patterns shifted to what might have been understanding. I see. Your species compensates for physical limitations through tactical innovation. It's not compensation, Captain Ryan said firmly. It's advantage. Human soldiers don't just follow orders. They're trained to assess situations independently and adapt in real time. Every human in a combat situation is essentially their own tactical command center. Thelkor was silent for a long moment, his three eyes moving between Lisa and Vrektar. This has significant implications for humanity's integration into the Galactic Council. We had concerns about your military capabilities. Those concerns now seem misplaced. With respect, Ambassador, Lisa said. You should still have concerns. Just not the ones you came in with. None. What do you mean? You were worried we were too weak to contribute to galactic security. You should be worried about what happens when you really need us. Because if you need human soldiers, it means something has gone very wrong. One of the observers made a sound that the translator rendered as nervous laughter. You speak as if human combat capability is something to fear. Lisa met the alien's gaze steadily. Today was a training exercise with non-lethal weapons and safety protocols. I was trying not to hurt anyone. Imagine what would happen if I wasn't trying. The cargo bay went quiet. It wasn't a threat, just a statement of fact, but the implications hung in the air like smoke. Vrektar broke the silence. The human makes a valid point. I have fought in 17 combat situations against 9 different species. Today was the first time I have been defeated, and it was also the first time I truly understood what mercy in combat looks like. Mercy? The tentacled observer asked. Officer Grant could have caused serious injury to my team, Vrektar explained. Our armor has weak points, specifically for emergency access. She knew where they all were. She could have struck at unprotected areas. Instead, she disabled our equipment. She made us helpless, without making us casualties. He turned to Lisa. That level of control, that precision in the middle of combat, it requires more skill than simple violence. I had not understood this about human security doctrine. Lisa nodded. We prefer everyone goes home alive. But we train for worst-case scenarios. Just because we prefer non-lethal solutions doesn't mean we can't handle lethal threats. Ambassador Thelkor began entering notes into a handheld device. I will be recommending that the Galactic Council revise its assessment of human military capacity. I will also be suggesting that cross-training opportunities be made available for species who wish to learn human tactical approaches. The Korvash would welcome such opportunities, Vrektar said immediately. What I learned today would benefit our forces greatly. Over the next hour, the observers filed out of the cargo bay, each lost in their own thoughts about what they had witnessed. The story of the demonstration would spread through the galactic community quickly, a human with a baton defeating 5 elite warriors. It sounded like a tale meant to inspire, but it was documented fact, recorded from multiple angles. Eventually, only Lisa, Ryan, and Vrektar remained in the cargo bay. The Korvash commander approached Lisa and performed a formal bow, a gesture of respect in his culture. You have taught me something valuable today, Officer Grant. I came here believing my team was invincible. I leave understanding that invincibility is an illusion. There is always someone with a different way of fighting, a different way of thinking. You're taking this better than I expected, Lisa admitted. Vrektar's mandibles moved in what might have been a smile. I am a warrior, but I am not a fool. Today I learned that the galaxy is larger and more diverse than my training prepared me for. This is valuable knowledge, perhaps the most valuable I have gained in years. He gathered his equipment and left, walking with the dignity of someone who had lost a battle but not his honor. Ryan waited until the commander was gone before speaking. That was one hell of a demonstration. Lisa rolled her shoulder carefully, feeling the ache settle into her muscles. I didn't humiliate him on purpose. I just did what needed to be done. You proved a point. Several points, actually. The galaxy is going to look at humanity differently after today. Mine. 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 Good, Lisa said. Maybe they'll stop underestimating us. She walked toward the exit, ready for hot shower and about 12 hours of sleep. Behind her, the cargo bay stood silent, the scene of a battle that had changed perceptions. A human with a simple baton had faced the galaxy's best and won, not through superior strength or advanced weapons, not through luck or deception, but through the fundamental human traits that had carried the species from Earth's surface to the stars. Adaptability, endurance, and the stubborn refusal to accept that any fight was truly unwinnable. The news reached Earth within days. The recording of the exercise was analyzed in military academies across human space. Lisa Grant became a name recognized on every colony world, though she remained uncomfortable with the attention. She was just a security officer who had done her job. But for the Galactic Council and the dozens of species watching humanity's integration, the message was clear. Humans were not weak. They were not naive. They were survivors from a harsh world who had brought their survival skills to the stars, and they had only just begun to show the galaxy what they could do. In the weeks that followed, applications poured in from alien military forces requesting human tactical instructors. The Korvash were first in line, followed by 6 other species who wanted to understand how humans approached combat. Trade agreements were finalized more quickly. Diplomatic negotiations took on a different tone. Humanity had earned its place not through intimidation or displays of force, but by demonstrating that strength came in many forms. That being different could be an advantage. That the galaxy's newest members had lessons to teach as well as learn. And somewhere on the Herald of Unity, Lisa Grant continued her duties, training new security officers and refining techniques that would eventually spread throughout human space and beyond. The exercise had lasted less than 5 minutes. Its impact would last for generations. In the cargo bay, Vrektar's voice came through the external speakers on his armor, since his internal communications were dead. I yield, he said. The words were difficult for him, a warrior who had never spoken them before. The human has won. Lisa straightened and looked at him. You're a good fighter, Commander. You just weren't ready for someone who fights like I do. No, Vrektar admitted. We were not. And now I understand why. Why? Because you do not fight to prove you are strong. You fight to survive, and survival knows no rules. Lisa smiled despite her exhaustion. Now you're getting it. Lisa straightened, wincing slightly from a bruise she'd picked up in the last exchange. I fight to win, Commander. Honor doesn't protect hostages. Vrektar considered this. Then, with deliberate slowness, he set his plasma rifle on the ground and straightened. Then let us see how you fight when the opponent adapts to you. The commander's armor systems were more advanced than his team's, with redundant power systems and reinforced joints. He was also more experienced, having survived combat against dozens of species. He would not make the same mistakes his soldiers had. Lisa watched him prepare, knowing that this final confrontation would be the hardest yet. But she was ready. She had always been ready. Clever, but ultimately meaningless. She had revealed herself to take down one soldier. Now, they knew where she was. All teams converge on Section 7, he ordered. Box formation. She has nowhere to run. The Corvash strike team moved with practiced precision, closing in on Lisa's last known position. Their armor made the floor vibrate with each step. On their helmet displays, the tactical map showed them surrounding the area, cutting off all escape routes. What none of them realized was that Lisa wasn't trying to escape. She was exactly where she wanted to be. And her real advantage wasn't speed, or stealth, or even training. It was that she understood something the Corvash didn't. Combat wasn't about who had the best equipment or the most firepower. It was about who could adapt faster when their plan fell apart, and human plans were designed to fall apart. It was how they learned to win. Commander, should we be concerned? The human seems confident. Vrektar watched Lisa disappear around the corner. Confidence without skill is just arrogance. We will show these humans what real combat looks like. Prepare yourselves. This will be quick. His team nodded and moved to gather their equipment. None of them noticed the small smile on Vrektar's face fade slightly as he considered Lisa's words. He dismissed the feeling quickly. They were the elite. They had trained for decades, and they had never lost. What could one human with a stick possibly do against them?